𝗂𝗲𝗵𝗂𝘁, you're watching Bhutan This Week, our weekly news magazine program with me, 𝗪𝗵𝘂𝘁. Our top stories this week. Thai delegates present World Tippetaka Sajaya phonetic edition to His Majesty the King and Her Majesty the 𝗪𝗂𝗀. Joint sitting passes Marriage Amendment Bill, raises legal marriage age for women to 18. And Prime Minister says overseas migration during productive years poses existential threat. A delegation from Thailand presented an 80-volume World Tippetaka Sajaya phonetic edition to His Majesty the King and Her Majesty the 𝗪𝗀𝗀 on Monday during a special ceremony held at the Grand Cunray of 𝗪𝗂𝗄𝗀.
The Tippetaka is the oldest complete collection of Buddhist scriptures. Also known as the Pali Canon, the Tippetaka forms the doctrinal foundation of the Theravada tradition of Buddhism and is to the Theravada tradition what Kanjur and Thenjur are to the Mahayana Buddhist tradition. The World Tippetaka Sajaya phonetic editions are a specially transcribed version of the Tippetaka using a phonetic system in order to preserve and standardize the original Pali pronunciation.
Volume 2, King's Edition to His Majesty the 𝗪𝗀𝗀𝗀.
The World Tippetaka Sajaya phonetic editions have 80 volumes in two key editions, first published in 2016 to commemorate the 70th anniversary of the accession to the throne of His Majesty King 𝗵𝗵𝗂𝘀 Adulyadej, King Rama IX of Thailand. The ceremony concluded with the offering of 1,000 butter lambs and prayers. A representative of the World Tippetaka Foundation, which published the volumes, said the offering from the Kingdom of Thailand to their Majesties reflects the friendship between the two countries, anchored in the close ties between the royal families of Bhutan and Thailand and shared spiritual heritage. 𝗵𝗵𝗂𝗀𝗀𝗀 News.
His Majesty the King granted an audience to scholarship students who are set to pursue their undergraduate studies in various countries around the world on 19th June. The students who excelled in their Class 12 examinations are government scholarship recipients who will be pursuing professional degree courses in a variety of disciplines. Every year, His Majesty makes it a point to meet with scholarship students before they leave for their studies. His Majesty the King visited the Gelsung academies in Kotoka and Jamsoling on Wednesday to meet with the Gelsups of the 2025 batch who are currently undergoing training.
A total of 2,658 Gelsups who make up the first cohort of Gelsung 2025 began their training on 1st April across 4 academies, Kotoka, Jamsoling, Pemata and Gelbujing. They are scheduled to complete their training on June 30. The training includes basic military training, BMT, physical fitness, obstacle courses, weapon handling, and courses in national education. The Royal Bhutan Armed Forces conduct the BMT, while experts lead the academic components. The program is designed to instill discipline, leadership, and core values such as integrity, excellence, accountability, and loyalty. A total of 3,691 youth successfully completed 𝗪𝗰𝗀 2024 across 2 cohorts. The current cohort will complete their training by June 30, 2025. Bhutan's national service is a royal initiative which was announced by His Majesty the King on National Day in 2019 as an avenue to empower Bhutanese to shape a bright future for themselves and the nation. This is 𝗕𝗵𝘂𝘁 for BBS News.
His Holiness the 𝗕𝗵𝘂𝘁 conferred the empowerments of medicine Buddha, 𝗪𝗰𝗀 and 𝗪𝗰𝗸𝗂𝗸 to the general public at 𝗪𝗵𝗂𝗀𝗀 in Thimphu on Monday. Thousands of devotees from across the country gathered to receive the blessings. His Holiness presided over 𝗕𝗵𝘂𝘁𝘁 of feast offering on Tuesday. These followed His Holiness the 𝗕𝗵𝘂𝘁's first ever 4-day oral transmission of the sacred Mani Kabum to the general public. The marriageable age of women has been raised to 18. The joint sitting of the Parliament adopted this provision along with the Marriage Bill of Bhutan 2024 on Wednesday. The disputed bill was deliberated in the joint sitting after the National Council rejected the bill last session.
The Marriage Amendment Bill of Bhutan 2024 was introduced in the National Assembly in the summer session of last year after a request by the National Commission of Women and Children. MPs said the change aims to align the marriageable age in Marriage Amendment Bill of Bhutan 2004 with other acts, such as the Penal Code of Bhutan 2004, the Contract Act of Bhutan 2013, and the Child Care and the Protection Act of Bhutan 2011.
The marriageable age has remained 18 since 1996, but this was not clearly stated in the law. To avoid ambiguity, it is important to have a clear legal provision.
If we set the marriageable age at 18 for males and 16 for females, we risk harming the lives of 3 individuals. A girl under 18 cannot obtain a marriage certificate, which means the child born from such a marriage will not be registered in the census. Without census registration, the child will miss out on access to education.
If we delay amending this provision, it may be too late as we are required to report to international conventions in 3 to 4 years. If the amendment is not made, it will be noted that we have not taken action.
However, other members questioned whether it was really important to amend this provision.
There are a lot of other provisions that need to be reviewed and changed in the Marriage Amendment Bill. There are lots of laws that needs to be changed that were formulated between 1955 to 1980. Therefore, instead of focusing on one provision of a bill, it is important to look into the overall act.
Last time in rural Semidila,
Legally, there is a term called the last-in-time rule, which means that when there is a conflict between 2 laws, the one that was enacted most recently takes precedence. Even if the Marriage Act 1980 says the female age is 16, other recent laws says both genders must be 18. Therefore, the last-in-time rule and doctrine of implied repeal will cover it.
During the joint sitting, 49 members voted in favor of the bill, while the 14 opposed it and 2 abstained. During the last session, the National Council did not adopt the bill and proposed 26 additional provisions discussing child support and divorce, among others. Today, the Joint Committee suggested the possibility of discussing these additional provisions in the future Parliament sessions. With additional information from 𝗪𝗵𝘂𝘁, this is 𝗪𝗵𝗂𝗸 for BBS News.
The Assembly did not accept the Council's recommendation on the budget for the financial year 2025-26. The committee had proposed removing the budget allocated for establishing an international school, suggesting private sector should undertake the initiative. It also recommended dropping the 94 million 𝗪𝗏 Priority Development Fund, which would allocate 2 million 𝗪𝗏 annually to each constituency. According to the Constitution, the House can either reject or accept the Council's recommendation concerning money bills. The bill will now be submitted for royal assent. The Social and Cultural Committee of the National Assembly proposed deferring the implementation of the Class 10 cut-off point, which was initially planned for the next academic session. Of the 39 members present in the National Assembly on Monday, 38 voted in support of the motion, with 1 member abstaining. MPs said reinstating the cut-off point will increase dropout rate and unemployment, widen socio-economic inequality and negative impact on 𝗕𝗵𝗂𝗀𝗸, among others.
Earlier in March this year, the ministry notified schools across the country to reintroduce the cut-off point for Class 10 students who will be entering Class 11 next year. However, the majority of the members of parliament requested the ministry to postpone the implementation and review the decision once again.
As the committee mentioned, if students do not get the opportunity to continue their studies, they are compelled to sell their assets and take loans, which only adds to the family debt. Considering such challenges, I feel it is better not to have cut-off point. With modern development, I feel reintroducing the cut-off point is not the only way to ensure quality education. There are other ways. Hence, I request that a thorough research should be conducted and to be reassessed. As the country develops and aims to match international standards, studying only up to Class 10 for free is not enough. To match international standards, we need proper qualifications, skills and knowledge. A Class 10 qualification alone does not equip individuals to start a livelihood. The policy is regressive. During our time, the reason for the cut-off point was due to a shortage of infrastructure. We had no choice. We only had 𝗪𝗏 and Kangglung as options. According to the committee, we now have enough infrastructure to accommodate students.
While most members supported the reconsideration, the Khamme Lunana MP raised a concern that removing the cut-off point would have long-term implications.
Firstly, students from PP to Class 3 do not take examinations. This has already deteriorated the quality of education. Now, a student in Class 10 with just 40% can move on to Class 11. After completing Class 12, they will search for jobs. Yet, in the job market, the merit of Class 10 is considered up to 10%. This will affect students and they might not get employed anywhere.
In response, the Education and Skills Development Minister stated that the ministry's concern is not limited to Class 10 students, but extends to students across the country, ensuring that no child is left behind.
The Lobrin Chupana Builder, the cut-off point meptadi, pasti thembachin tumni mese, hogi debe unidigi 11 the 12 ki alu.
When there is cut-off point, most students become relaxed. They think a pass mark is sufficient. Students in Class 11 and 12 become complacent and they know it. I hope parents know it too. For instance, students come to me seeking jobs and most of them have marks in 40s and 50s. What kind of job can I give them? These days, even for jobs like caretakers or messengers, a minimum qualification of Class 12 is required. During interviews, shortlisting is done on a merit basis.
The Class 12 go veseradula. The ana interview na chava joda. Interview na shortlisting be the merit basis na omela.
The minister further added that without examinations and a merit-based system, students will not develop resilience and competitiveness. The ministry will review the matter and present a review report in the upcoming winter session. 𝗬𝗵𝗂𝗸 for 𝗵𝗂𝗶𝘀 News.
Prime Minister 𝗕𝗵𝗂𝗂𝗫 has described the ongoing migration of individuals overseas in their most productive years as an existential threat and national crisis. Speaking during the question hour session in the National Council on 20th June, he warned that if this trend persists, it could significantly deplete the country's population, posing risks to Bhutan's security and sovereignty. He stressed that this is having a serious impact on the country's education and health sectors. He also revealed that around 66,000 Bhutanese currently reside abroad, many of whom are skilled, educated and experienced.
How can we stop civil servants from leaving the country? I cannot guarantee that they will not resign. When they do, they often cite reasons such as poor working environments. That may be true, but it is time we acknowledge the main reason. We must accept that they are leaving to earn better incomes. If this is the sole reason for leaving, then we need to explore ways to create jobs within the country that offer earnings comparable to those abroad.
The National Council continued its deliberations on the Goods and Services Tax Bill 2025 on 21st June with detailed discussions on the proposed exemption of GST on 5 essential items: rice, oil, salt, wheelchairs for persons with disabilities, and sanitary pads. Although the National Assembly had endorsed exemptions on these items, the Council's Legislative Committee recommended otherwise. However, a majority of members voted in favor of exempting these items through a show of hands.
Dagana's MP raised strong objections to the committee's proposal to include GST on wheelchairs. Highlighting the need for inclusive policies, he said the country has around 48,000 persons with disabilities.
There are around 12,000 people with severe disabilities, and only about 500 of them can use wheelchairs. Exempting GST on wheelchairs will not only benefit children with disabilities, but also ease the burden on their families.
Wheelchairs are not luxury goods. They are essential for those who rely on them. One day, any of us might need one. Let's support this exemption now for the future.
Disability can affect anyone at any time. Article 9, Section 22 of our Constitution mandates the state to provide security in cases of disability. A tax exemption would be a step in fulfilling that responsibility.
From my time at Tendu School, I have seen that most persons with disabilities come from low-income families. Taxing essential mobility aids like wheelchairs, which cost up to 50,000 items, would add to their hardship.
The National Assembly rightly recommended GST exemption for sanitary pads and wheelchairs, along with rice, salt and oil, items directly linked to our food security and public welfare.
Some members also cautioned the 5% GST on basic commodities such as rice, oil and salt, especially since the country imports most of these goods.
Everyone,
rich or poor, relies on rice, salt and oil. These are daily essentials. Taxing them affects all of us equally.
In rural Bhutan, these items are not just food. They are also used as SEMSO contributions. With rice now costing at least 1,500 items a bag, exempting GST would be a major relief.
Meanwhile, the Legislative Committee argued against the exemptions, citing broader economic implications.
misuse of official power.
There is a risk of misuse of official power. Know how difficult the import process. People, especially shopkeepers, know how difficult the import process through penciling can be. Implementing GST will help prevent such issues.
The 𝗵𝗂𝗶𝘀 주게라 다리 휠체어구 𝗕𝗵𝗂𝗀𝗸
For instance, a wheelchair may cost around 100 Newton with tax. However, as it gets shipped, additional costs such as shipping and transaction fees are added. This results in tax being applied on top of tax, ultimately burdening the consumer.
Other committee members stressed that the revenue from GST helps fund public services and any exemptions must be carefully weighed against long-term national interests. Deliberations will continue on Monday before final adoption. 𝗵𝗶𝗀𝗸 for BBS News.
That is all we have for this week. Thank you for watching. Until next time, this is 𝗕𝗵𝘂𝘁𝗻 saying goodbye.